Hello everyone, my name is Abu Bakr Salim and welcome to my channel. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about a very important topic in C language, which is functions. Functions are block of code that can perform a specific task. It is just like a regular program, but it can perform a specific task and it can be reused whenever we want to use it. We have used different functions so far, like printf functions, scanf functions. Those are the functions that can be reused whenever we want to use them. We do not have to write the code every time of that function. We just have to call that function by its name, and we can use them, like printf, and then we write printf on the screen, and then we write the text that we want to print, and we get the output. So those are basically the functions. Functions are of two types. The first type is built-in functions that we have discussed so far, like printf, scanf functions, and user-defined functions is the second type that we'll be discussing in the upcoming videos. The built-in functions are already present in the C language libraries. We have discussed about the libraries as well. For example, we have discussed about uh, stdio.h library. So that library contains printf and scanf functions. Similarly, we discussed about math.h library, which contains sqrt function. Similarly, we discussed about console input output library, which contains getch and getche function. So there are multiple built-in functions that are present in C language, and we can use them by including a library. And these functions are also known as standard functions or library functions. The second type is user-defined functions, and these functions are created by the programmer or by the user during a program. And these programs can be called in a program, in that specific program in which they have been created, whenever user want to call them. Okay, so and we can call these functions in the main function, or we can also call these functions inside another function. There are some important points for C functions to remember. These points are that every function has a name. Okay, like we have discussed about printf function, the printf is the name of that function. The second point to remember is that every function has a return type. We will discuss that. Every function contains the parameters. Parameters are basically the arguments or the operands on which we want to perform an operation. And every function contains a functionality. Okay, these user-defined functions or built-in functions resemble to mathematical functions that you have studied in your mathematics books. We also call them algebraic functions. Here's an example. You can see here a function fx is equal to x squared plus x plus 1 is a function. Now, this function and C language functions resemble with each other. How can we say that? You can see that in this fx function, the name of the function is f. Similarly, x is the argument or the parameter on which we want to perform the operation, functionality. X square plus x plus 1 is the formula or the functionality that we are performing. And whenever we perform this function will return a value. That returning value will be the return type of this function. So for example, if we write f1, it will return 1 square plus 1 plus, it will return 3. So if we are finding f1, the answer is going to be 3. If we are finding f2, the answer is going to be 7, I guess. So every mathematical function also returns a value. It contains a name, it contains a parameter, it contains a functionality, and it contains a return type. Similarly, C language functions resemble to arithmetic functions. Now you can see this main function that we have discussed many times in our programs. The first thing that you see in this function is void. Void is a return type. Every function either returns something or returns nothing. If a function returns nothing, then we specify void. Main function does not return anything, so we specify void here. Main is the name of the function. Then there is a bracket which is empty, which means that this function does not contain any parameter. So a function can either contain parameters or it can not contain a parameters. And the statements resemble to the functionality. Whatever functionality we want to perform, we write in these delimiters, and those statements becomes the functionality of the function. There are two examples that I have discussed. The first example is int sum. Now int is the return type of this function. This function will return an integer value always because we have specified the return type as int. The name of the function is sum. It contains two parameters, a and b. Now you can see in the delimiters that it is finding the sum of a plus b and it is returning s. Return is a keyword that we will discuss uh, when we will be doing functions practically. Similarly, there is another example of subtraction which also contains two parameters a and b, and this function is returning the sub difference of a and b. So these are the functions that are present in C language, or we can create them in C language. And uh, there is a lot to cover about functions, and we'll be doing that in the upcoming videos as well. But this was the brief introduction of functions that I have covered today. If there is any question, you can ask me in the comment section. There will be very so many clarifications that you will need, but those clarifications will be cleared in the upcoming videos. Okay, so I would really like want you guys to keep looking the upcoming videos because functions will be discussed in detail in the upcoming videos. So if you have any question related to anything in C language, you can ask me in the comment section, and please subscribe the channel.